Hello, and welcome to episode 194 of The Joy of Coding. Hello, my name is Mike Conley. Welcome, so glad to have you. Going to be hacking on some Firefox stuff today. Sorry, just reaching around here to get my drinks. And we can get started. Hi, so glad to have you. Let's get started. All right, so if you are new to the stream, then you've probably never heard me say this before, and if you've been watching the stream for a while, you'll have heard it many times. No plan survives breakfast. I have a sense of what I want to do today, but it might go horribly wrong. None of the stream is really pre-planned or pre-thought out. I haven't written, I don't have pre-written solutions. Well, that's not... For today's episode, I actually I'm going to be taking some patches through to completion that I've already started, but it's not like I've done anything that I'm about to do today in like a rehearsal or anything. It's all off the cuff is what I'm trying to say. Meaning you're actually capturing me working on stuff in the raw. It's real software development, as opposed to like a rehearsed thing that you might see in front of a crowd where they pre-recorded or they know what commands are going to get spat out whenever they write it, or they know what they want, how they want to write a thing. Anyway, that's the first preamble. The second one is that the agenda that we're looking at, this one right here in front of us, is something that you have access to. If you're watching this on Air Mozilla, check out the handout section. And if you're watching this on YouTube, the video description down below. And if you're watching this on Twitch, I'm about to drop the link into the Twitch chat in 3, 2, 1, boom. Of course, there's a little bit of a delay there, so it won't be instantaneous, but there it is. And yeah, so there's the agenda. And the other thing I want to point out is that there is an episode guide. The episode guide brought to you by viewers just like you, because this episode guide is completely viewer driven. It is something that is available to you as something that can give you updates, or not updates, a breakdown of what I covered in a particular episode. It has links to the episode itself on Air Mozilla, as well as the agenda, and maybe some handy links. There are actually, I believe there's actually a pull request for last week's episode that I should merge in. So let's do that right now. Actually, this one is from Smurf D as usual. Smurf D, very reliable contributor to the episode guide. Really excited to see this. So on October 16th, episode 193, here's the link itself. Let's make sure that that's right. Looks like it, 193. And then over here, the agenda. Let's make sure that's the right agenda. Yep, that's right. And then topics. Live hacking channel. The live hacking IRC channel is not available. It is back. For the people last week who were wondering about the IRC channel, it is back. You can access it. It's on irc.mozilla.org. And it was, I think there was a snafu because I switched from one version of IRC Cloud to another. And so I left a room that I didn't. Long story short, I have ownership of the room now, and so if you were wondering where did that room go, it's back, and you can access it. And we also added some documentation for picture-in-picture. I demonstrated some new sounds. Oh man, my tablet's so slow. Here we go. That one. Yep, that one as well. We talked about Shelve and Mock Doc and Sphinx.js. Eventually, we were able to get things working. And then we were looking at the node compatibility chart. There's a small spelling error there. I'm actually going to update that. I'm going to update the file. Compatibility. There we go. Compatibility. That looks right. Okay, so going to spelling update. And then I should be able to just merge this. Check your version of node's compatibility. Maybe I should have made that node compatibility instead of nodes compatibility. Node.js. Check your version. How about just check Node.js compatibility with various JavaScript features. I'll put a capital S on the script there. So update on the Node.js compat line. Nothing too fancy there for the commit message. Don't worry about it, Smurf D. I'm so grateful for the episode guides, so I'm happy that they're in there. I'm going to merge this, say thanks, confirm merge, comment, and it is done. So that's been merged into the episode guide 193, and today's episode 194 will be in hopefully soon. So that's the first thing. And if you yourself want to contribute to the episode guide, that's something you can do. You have access to, here in this link, agenda, a link to a contributing guide and how you can send a pull request to a repository. You can update a pre-existing episode guide. Maybe you want to flesh it out a little bit. And if you're not sure what a pull request is or how to work with them in GitHub, here's a guide that SmurfD recommends. So check that out. Before I update on, I already talked about the live hacking channel. I want to bring your attention to something else, which I had added this link down here, but I didn't really say anything about it last week. There is this fellow working on an operating system that they wrote themselves called Serenity OS. So this is already like pretty impressive when someone writes their own operating system. And Andreas Kling is now writing a browser for Serenity OS. So hand-rolling from scratch a browser for an operating system that was written from scratch. Andreas Kling is live hacking on these on these components. So like it's like these little like half-hour chunks on like descendant selectors, padding, borders. Like basically we're at the primordial soup level of a browser engine here. Adding like the blink element, I watched that one, and there's some refactoring, adding hover, lazy image decoding, like really interesting stuff. Yeah, what's the most recent one? Links with the same page, so like anchor, like reference links. So I thought that was pretty neat. You should check this out. Andreas Kling, I believe, was a WebKit engineer. So like Andreas knows what's going on inside a browser engine. So you're getting to watch a browser engineer write a browser engine from scratch on YouTube, and I think that's pretty impressive. So check that out. It's pretty great. What do I want to do today? Well, great question. I want to work on Mac OS support for picture-in-picture. This is something I myself have wanted for a while, except that we've been spending so long trying to get Windows support working correctly that we weren't able to like dedicate many resources to getting macOS support. But now that we just released Firefox 70 to the release population, that went out yesterday, so people should be getting Firefox 70 updates. 71 just went to beta, and 71 has a bunch of improvements to picture-in-picture reliability, specifically like toggle behaviors got updated and whatnot. Those are in 71, and the goal right now, or the plan, is to ship picture-in-picture enabled by default for Windows users in Firefox 71, starting, that'll be in about 6 weeks. Let me look at the release calendar, actually. So the release calendar, if you're not already familiar with it, I'm going to put a link to that. The release calendar, very handy. Let me put that below here. And it will tell you important dates. Like for example, in the fourth quarter of 2019, Firefox 72 becomes nightly becomes Firefox 72 on October 21st. That occurred 2 days ago. That's correct. And beta becomes 71, and we release on October 22nd, which we did. That was yesterday. Firefox 70 went to release. Next is on October 25th is the soft freeze, and then December 2nd is when 72 goes up to beta and 71 goes out to release. So on December 3rd is the release date. On December 3rd, if all goes well, then picture-in-picture should go out to our Windows release population in 71 starting December 3rd. But I believe our plan is to do a slow rollout where we're going to it's not going to be enabled like right off the bat just because you updated to 71. We're going to slowly turn the feature on. And the reason we're doing that is we want to make sure that we don't This is the first time that we've added something to like web content, like a browser feature inside web content. And we don't think it's going to annoy people. Like if you go to a YouTube, let's look at Andreas's channel. And if we like watch the Blink Element one, and here's an advertisement, blah, 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 advertisement, don't care, skip the ad. So there's just a little bit of anxiety that this little toggle will annoy people. And so we're going to slowly roll it out. And we don't think it's going to annoy people on YouTube so much, but we're worried it's going to annoy people on sites like Twitch, where, you know, there's already so much activity and when we add something brand new. So we're going to slowly roll it out and pay attention to user feedback, just to get a sense of whether or not people are like frantically trying to figure out how to turn this thing off. And if so, then we might have to go back to the drawing board. We don't think that will happen, but we're being cautious. So that's why we're going to do a bit of a slow rollout in 71. Okay. So I've talked about the release calendar. We're working on picture-in-picture for Mac OS. Great. So what do we have? What are we doing? Well, let's take a look at my tree right now. I've got Central checked out, and I actually have a work-in-progress patch. Like, one thing has already landed today, actually. Toolbar, resize Mac. I landed something today. What was it? Let's take a look. Toolbar. Oh man, where did this go? And you know, I made the mistake of not adding an active bug. Whoopsie daisy, that looks like a mistake. You know what it is? I think it'll be on milestone 4. That's where I can find it. It's attached to milestone 4, which is the Mac OS feature, picture-in-picture feature tracking bug. And yeah, it's this one. Being able to resize the picture-in-picture window. It turns out that that's actually a lot simpler than I thought. By having title bar equals no, that was disabling the resize capability. Turning on title bar actually doesn't affect, on Windows at least, it doesn't affect the window visually. On Mac OS, turning title bar equals yes changes the window type. And I linked to the code where that kind of decision is made over here. We change the window mask effectively. So we skip over this. We're no longer a borderless window mask. We are what's called a resizable window mask. So we've got curved corners for the picture-in-picture window, and we also have it so that it is resizable, which is very nice. And if we take a look at, we can probably apply that patch right now. Let's see. I'm gonna patch. First of all, I have to update MozFab. MozFab patch apply to here, and I'll show you it in action. So, like for example, if we go to, let's go back to that YouTube page, Blink Element, YouTube Blink, and I open up picture-in-picture. Then you'll notice that like this is not a resizable window. Notice the square corners, but the window itself is not resizable. Okay, so that's the current behavior in Nightly. Now I've applied the patch, and I'm going to build, mock build faster. I can use mock build faster because it's like a one-liner change inside of a JSM, a JavaScript module, which means I don't have to do a full binary build. I can use mock build faster, which is great because it's faster, or should be faster. Okay, so it only took me 22 seconds, and then I will run. Now I don't remember if, let's see here, about config, I might actually have to turn on picture. No, it's on, okay. And then we will go to YouTube. Let's look at this Bon Appetit thing.
For all your
Blah, 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 blah. Advertisement. Don't care, don't care, don't care, don't care. Some kind of veterinary thing. Skip the ad. Skip the ad. I don't want to see the ad. Don't. No. Okay. So I will now open picture-in-picture. And we have now our nice rounded corners. We also have this nice drop shadow. It's probably hard to tell because of the black background on some of these things, but like, let me pull up a white background. We have a drop shadow behind the window, and the window itself is now resizable. Now the window is not paying attention to like aspect ratio. That's something I'm hoping I can do today. I actually have a work in progress patch to support aspect ratio, but now the window is resizable, and that patch has already landed on Autoland. So hopefully that lands in the tree soon. So there we go. So what I want to do is take a look at the patch where I did all this experimentation. Where was it? Shelf. I think it was 7 days ago. It was about a week ago. HG shelf. Yeah, this one. It's not going to apply nicely because it's already got the it's going to try and apply the title bar fix again. So what I'll do actually, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to prune off the tip, the thing I just applied, then demonstrated, and now I'm going to unshelve default 148. And I'm going to clean it up a little bit. Because it's like it's conflating three different things. And I also have to make sure that there's a bug for this. Milestone 4. Doesn't stay on top. Yeah, this one doesn't stay on top. Okay, so what changes I added were these ones. So I'm actually going to revert the first part, which is the title bar one, because that got split out and landed separately like I just described. So I'm going to undo that change. Instead, we're going to focus on the Cocoa window changes. And there are a couple of changes here. And I'm going to try and break these apart because they're two different things. There's the aspect ratio locking, and then there's the always on top part. So these first two changes make it so that we can support the aspect ratio locking thing. This here is about the always on top business, unsurprisingly. And I think ultimately, it's this. This is all you have to do. You have to set a window level of NS floating window level, and you've got always on top. I thought it'd be a lot harder, and I also thought locking the aspect ratio is going to be harder, but it turns out that there's a built-in feature to do that in the Cocoa libraries, where you just set the aspect ratio to the window size, and job's done. So my next job then is to break this patch up into individual parts. Commit. How do I do this? What was it? Commit interactive. I'm just going to commit the always on top parts and see if that's like in sufficient shape that I can put it up for review from our Mac OS widget people, our Cocoa widget peers. So I don't want that change. I do want I don't want that change either. I do want the always on top thing. Okay, so that's the one change I want here. So I can fold that back up. Do want this change, do want this change, do want this change, don't want this change. Okay, so commit. And now the bug number was this one. We're going to add a commit message, bug such and such, support, add support for always on top for NS Cocoa window, Windows for Mac OS. And I'm going to ask Marcus? I'll see if Marcus has time to review this. And then the rest is about adding aspect ratio locking. And that I don't think there's a bug for. Like if we take a look at the dependency tree, let's take a look at the dependency tree here. Aspect, no. We need to file a new one. Bugzilla, new bug, widget, Cocoa. Cocoa is the name of like the widgetry layer for macOS, or it used to be anyways, but that's what we still call it. I think they use something called like, I don't know, maybe they've changed the name of the underlying widgetry layer, but we still call it Cocoa. And this is an enhancement, add lock aspect ratio support to Mac OS, Windows support. This is needed for the built-in picture-in-picture capability to keep the player window at the same aspect ratio as the underlying video. And so this will block milestone 4. And I will take this one. So this one, there's like this unknown thing here that I'm gonna figure out, have to figure out, but I think I actually have it figured out because I was reading some documentation, but we're gonna look at that shortly. So if I apply this, bug such and such, add lock aspect ratio window, support to Windows for Mac OS. Okay, and I should point out that this is a work in progress, this one. I do that for myself, just so that I don't accidentally like think, oh, this thing's ready to go. I always add like update the commit message and I put WIP for work in progress. So those changes are now committed. I actually want to reapply that thing that I pulled down, this patch. But I want to base my patches on top of it, I think. So I regret pruning it. I actually want it back so I can apply the other two on top, and then we can take a look at how it behaves when they're all together. And at that point, if my testing, my personal like testing that I did was right, then we should have something that works mostly. There are a couple of edge cases that we're gonna have to look at though. Rebase the other two on top of here. Rid-it-do-do-do.
I just spill your beans. Oh, yeah.
Okay. So now we build why are these starred out? Orphan. These are orphans? Why are they orphans? Instability, orphan. What does that mean? That's new. There shouldn't be any reason why they're unstable. Instability, orphan. Oh, because, oh, I see. because this one had been pruned before, and it's like it's brought it back from the dead. Oh, I need to like unprune it. HG touch there, and then sorry, a little bit of mercurial gymnastics here. HG touch is how we bring something back from the sort of the dead, the prune deadness. Touch changes the, I think, commit date. Rewritten using touch, yeah. And so it's been marked as obsolete. And so this should complete the rebase. Okay.
I can't do my work!
All right, so now we should be able to build widget Coco. In fact, I probably should have just done mock build binaries because we're going to need it to link. I don't know if this is going to cause us to link. Those are not anything that I did. So it is linking. That's good. That's a good sign. Okay, so now if I run this and go back to pastry chef video,
I have an idea. Let's skip.
okay, bring this up. Guess what? Now we've got an always on top window. I'm gonna like, yay, it's always on top. It's always on top. It's always on top. I can like switch to Evernote. I can bring up my terminal. It's always on top, and it is now resizable, and it is maintaining aspect ratio. Like if I try and resize the sides, it forces itself to retain aspect ratio. So this is good news. This is good news. The thing that I need to clean up though, there's a little bit of like that white rects on the side because like the video decoder I think is behind a tick or two. It's all done in parallel, and so our compositor composites and it doesn't know what to put there and it just puts white. It'd be nice if it was transparent. That's something I could like maybe do in a follow-up. But yeah, there we go. Always on top. Always on top. Oh, and now it was just thinking about some stuff, but now it is done. And the play and pause work, and if I click on this, it focuses the window again. We close picture in picture. Yeah, we're in pretty good shape. This is pretty good. I like this. So now I might actually use picture in picture myself now. I've been built. I rarely use Windows except whenever I'm here at work and whenever I'm working for Windows support. So I might be able to use picture in picture now for my own entertainment. That's interesting that it like whenever I close it, it brings Firefox back to the forefront. That might be a bug worth filing. I know that it won't focus the tab necessarily, and that's on purpose. If you want to focus the tab, you have to click this other button. That'll bring open the tab, the button at the bottom left here, to unpip. All right, so pretty good. Now what's missing? Oh, these errors. There is an open bug for that, but they are low priority right now. This is what I wanted to finish off, which is the lock aspect ratio API that was added to our windows is like a true or false. Do you lock the aspect ratio to the dimensions of the window as they currently are, and you need to be able to turn that on and turn it off. And I wasn't sure how to turn it off because like there's no unset aspect ratio. So I was looking at the Apple documentation, and I finally found, what did I find? Coco, set aspect ratio. Where was it? Aspect ratio window. NS window, app kit. That's kind of the right idea. Hang on, where was this? Coco, set aspect ratio. Yeah, this is what I was looking at. And NS Windows objects aspect ratio and its resize increments are mutually exclusive attributes. In fact, setting one attribute cancels the setting of the other. For example, to cancel an established aspect ratio setting for an NS window object, you can set the resize increments property with the width and height set to 1.0. 1.0. So I think what we can do here, whenever we want to like cancel the aspect ratio, lock aspect ratio, according to, in order to the aspect ratios and resize increments are mutually exclusive, and the accepted way of unapplying an aspect ratio is to set the resize increments. Of canceling an established, to set the resize increments to 1.0, 1.0. So what we can do is we'll say M window, and we say what's the resize increments? Is it set resize increments? Set resize increments. Looking for an example of that being used. Not in our Coco code. Let's check the world of GitHub. Set resize increments, and we're looking for code. We're looking for Objective-C if we can. I'm seeing lots. Windows set resize increments. That's exactly what we want. So this is going to work, I think. M window, set resize increments, and then we're going to set make size. Do we use, yeah, NS make size. Resize increments. We're going to go 1.0, 1.0. Boom. All right. Now, how do we test that? Well, one of the things that I think we need to be able to support is the resizing of the, there's actually a bug open on this. Oh, you know what? I just realized I fixed it, but I need to like undo the fix for a second. Oh, good. I've got a syntax error. I'm going to undo the fix for a second here so that I can build it like this and then demonstrate where this can go wrong if we don't undo the resize increments, or I don't undo the aspect ratio. So what I'll do is I'm going to open up the toolkit and I'm going to manually, with script, attempt to resize a aspect ratio locked window to something outside of its aspect ratio. And that will probably not work. I believe it will not work. Let's find it. Okay, so we have our always on top window. Let's open up the browser toolbox. let us, oh, vision preferences, very nice. All right, I am now focused on the picture-in-picture player window, and I'm going to resize. Window.size, resize to 100 by 100. Oh, it allows it. That's very interesting. 500 by 500. But the thing is, like, once that's done and I attempt to resize the window again, it goes back to the video's like aspect ratio. And so what I need to be able to do is, like, once script has attempted to resize the video, or sorry, resize the player window, that now its aspect ratio is locked to this new dimension. So we need to, like, cancel the aspect ratio and then reapply the lock of the aspect ratio. So that's what I want to do as also as part of this patch. So this is going to give us the ability to cancel the aspect ratio. And how do we tell if we've got our aspect ratio locked? That's the other thing. Aspect ratio. Content aspect ratio property. Should we be using that instead by default? This takes precedence over aspect ratio. So maybe we should be using content aspect ratio actually. Content aspect ratio. Let's go to getter and a setter, and then we can get it. This makes size. What's the default value of the aspect ratio? Set content aspect ratio. And how about get content aspect ratio? Not many. Not many. How about just dot content aspect ratio? C. Objective C. You can look at the width and the height. I'm just gonna close this. Double. What's the default value for the aspect ratio? Maybe what I'll do actually is it's gonna get it as an NS size. You know what we should do maybe is, yeah. I wonder if the simplest thing, maybe we should go for simple. That's usually the best bet, actually, is go for simple. And so I wonder if what we can do instead is like M aspect ratio locked. And then we will say if should lock, then it's true, then it is false, and then we will set the default value to be false, and then whenever we are given the command to resize, do resize. If M aspect ratio locked, we're going to say lock aspect ratio false. Well, what we're going to do actually is bool was locked equals M aspect ratio locked. If was locked, lock aspect ratio false, and then at the end, you almost want like a, no matter how we exit, because like if we're not moving and not resizing, we return is moving. Otherwise, how about we set the frame? Constrained screen contains largest new bounds, constrained size. Maybe what we want is like an exit. What are these called? These are handy things like exit scope, scope exit, make scope exit. That's what it is. Bool was locked. We'll say relock aspect ratio. If was locked, lock aspect ratio true. I think that'll work. Make scope exit. Is that how you can pass things through? Oh, I think you can actually just like get a closure. You don't need const bool was locked, so that we don't actually accidentally overwrite it. If was locked, lock aspect ratio is false. All right. So then no matter how we exit this function, whether here or we drop out, we will relock aspect ratio if we were locked before. I don't know what my reviewers are going to think of that, but let's see if that'll even build. That looks only okay to me. I feel like there's got to be a simpler way of doing this. Like maybe there's no way, like maybe if we exit out of here, we don't care about relocking aspect ratio. Or maybe it's okay to relock the aspect ratio here. But I got a feeling you I have a feeling this is what's actually doing the resizing of the window. Let's take a look at this line in the code, the history of this line. To streamline it, part 7. This is 3 years ago, Marcus. Part of which patch show the full diff. And what did we do in NS Coco? .mm. It's just like, okay, we're gonna make this return empty, undo resize, and we'll return void. If we're not, there's no window where we're already resizing, then we return early. If it turns out, if it turns out that we weren't, I know what it means. If it turns out that we didn't actually move or resize the window, then there's no need to actually set the frame. So we could like invert the logic. If is moving or is resizing, then do this. And then no matter what, relock the aspect ratio. I think I might actually prefer that. And I think it might prefer that too. Oh, it doesn't like the extra square bracket I added. Okay. I'm gonna change this up a little bit. I'm gonna say this if is moving or is resizing. We'll do that, and then we say if was locked, lock aspect ratio true. Do I like that better? In a way, it actually puts us in danger if we ever decide to bail out early for some reason in here. Then we won't do this step. And that'll introduce a bug. This at least makes sure that no matter how we exit, we'll relock the aspect ratio. Ooh, what do I want to do? What do I want to do, actually? Now that I've seen it. Relock aspect ratio was locked. Yeah, all right. I've made judgment. I'm going to go with the make scope exit thing. Pass judgment. Glunk, 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 glunk. Linking. All right, let's run this thing. Okay. What were we looking at before? Something simple like this. Then we open up this picture-in-picture player window, and then we also opened up the browser toolbox. And then we focused on the player window, And now if I type in resize to 500 by 500, it should stay at this aspect ratio when yeah, that's good. That's what I want. That's what I want. Now if I say resize to 300 by 200, now it should maintain this aspect ratio. Good. That is what I wanted. Cool, cool, cool. Working as intended. Okay. Let's see. Or do we even need to like unlock the aspect ratio? Like, I don't even know if we need to do this lock aspect ratio false step. Let's try not doing that and see what happens, if it'll still work the way we expect. I don't actually think we need it.
What happened? Hey, what happened?
Okay. Here's our video, picture in picture, toolbox, focus on the player window, change the size. Yeah, we don't need that unlocking of the player of the aspect ratio. So we can simplify this. We can say if we were locked, then we will relock. If we happened to we had our aspect ratio. Well, I guess this is kind of re-explain it. Like, what do I need to explain here? We are able to resize a window outside of the constraints of any. We are able to resize a window outside of it, any aspect ratio constraints applied to it. But in order to update the aspect ratio constraint to the new dimensions, we must relock the aspect ratio. New window dimensions. All right. Yo, what's your background? Asks Turbo1v9. Like my desktop background, my like familial background, or my programming background, or like this fabric background, or like, please specify. Ambiguous question, please specify. Educational background. Okay, I can answer that. I went to a university in Canada called the University of Toronto, and I studied computer science and drama. So I was a theater student as well as a computer science student, double major, and then I did a master's degree in the software engineering research group. That's my educational background. Okay, so this thing is ready to rock, I think. So I'm going to update the commit message. Then let's see. I'm going to move these patches over so that they no longer apply on top of this one. Rebase these two to this one on central. The question in Turbo 1v9 asks, how much of that do you find useful where you work? I mean, compared to what you studied and what you learned, could have learned by yourself. There were a lot of things I learned at school that I don't use every day. There are some things I definitely use. I learned how to use version control in school, which apparently was like very revolutionary at the time. Not version control, but the using it as a way of like submitting coursework. U of T was like, I don't know, really cutting edge because we were using Subversion to submit coursework, and everyone thought like, oh, holy smokes, that's crazy. But like, it was a great way of introducing us to version control. And now I think it's quite common that most students, or a lot of students, get either through coursework or group work, or just the fact that it's kind of, I don't know, it's a pretty common tool in the tool belt. Everyone seems to know how to use Git coming out of university, which is crazy because I can remember not that long ago, because I mentor students on both Firefox and another open source project called Review Board, where it was quite common for students to be like having never touched a version control tool ever. And there was always a bit of a stumbling block of like, we'd have to build up their experience. And it worked, like it's like these tools can be quite complex. Version control tools are quite complex, but they picked them up and they were able to proceed. The fact that it seems like more people are coming out of school, or they're in school and they're using version control tools like Git or Mercurial, most often Git, I think that's amazing. So I'm not sure if that's something like, but when I went to school, I learned about Subversion, and that was useful for me, especially whenever I was starting to transition to Git and Mercurial. Other things that were useful, I got involved in project courses when I was in school, and so learning how to build things and test things and deploy to a production environment for real users, that was great. It wasn't exactly a co-op program. It was like I took a fourth year course, and part of like the course credit was for us to work on an internal tool that the computer science department was using. So we had real users, real requirements, and that was a great course, and I learned a lot about how to like do like collaborative software development. I had two other teammates, and we used a bug tracker, and we did user studies, or we didn't really do user studies, but we did like UX mock-ups, got UX feedback, and like paper prototypes, and then we built user interfaces and tested them, and then using code review tools to maintain code quality. I learned a lot of that in school. Now, is that stuff that I could only have learned about in school? Absolutely not. I think it is not necessary. Nothing that I learned about in school is like necessary to have learned that in school. You are able to learn all of these things on your own by surfing the internet, or reading books on how to do software development. There are lots of really great free online courses. I've heard that Udemy offers some great courses, as well as like Khan Academy and Free Code Camp. All of these teach really, really valuable skills, and everything I described, like the code review tools and version control and collaboration, I think you learn a lot of that in those courses as well, or I think you're supposed to. So, I mean, some of the things I learned are maybe useful, like discrete math, especially if you're doing graphic stuff, being able to like understand. We were doing a lot of like matrices and stuff in discrete math, and that's useful for graphic stuff because whenever you're talking about GPUs, you're talking about doing like operations on matrices and triangles and matrices, and so trigonometry and discrete math were kind of useful. Calculus, not so useful. I failed calculus my first time, passed it with flying colors my second time, then transferred faculties from the computer engineering department to the computer science department, arts and science, and then barely passed calculus. So I've kind of like had the all-around experience of like failing, like just like smoking all of the tests and doing really, really well, and then doing only okay. And I did it in that order, which take that as you will. What else is there to say about school? Probably the people I met were more important than the coursework I did. I met my grad supervisor there, and my grad supervisor, his name's Greg Wilson, Dr. Greg Wilson. He very influential, I think, in how I think about software development, software design, software engineering, and how to design software for people, and how to ask good research questions that are also important research questions. Like, I think he did a really good job of merging the practical with the academic. And he's the one, I think, who was instrumental in introducing a lot of those project courses at my school. So the people were more important, maybe, than the courses themselves. Anything else? Turbo1v9 says, my background's in math, but I dropped out to work in software. I've done software for a few years, but I always have in mind to go back and finish school because I might miss something I'll later need. What's your take on this? Spend 3 years to finish bachelor's of science or master's or work in industry? To be honest, I love learning myself, but I have this university paper bias. I don't know. Like, I have a feeling that the actual... This is me speaking. This is my opinion. And my experience interviewing people is limited to interviewing here at Mozilla. Oftentimes, things like your coursework is less interesting to me as an interviewer. I want to see the projects that you worked on. I want to talk when I'm interviewing someone. I want to talk about the things that you built. I want to talk about the problems that you dealt with and how you approach those problems. And so I'm less interested in whether or not you have a bachelor's degree or a master's degree or a PhD or 2 PhDs or anything like that. I'm interested in how do you approach problems and how do you work with people? Do you work well with people? Do you work well with, where does the user fit into your, hierarchy of values? Where does privacy and security fit in your hierarchy of values? Where does performance fit in those hierarchy of values? You know what? The one course that may have really, really helped me in school, and I didn't think it would at the time, and I really kind of kick myself for not having paid more attention. Statistics. Because we do a lot of data analysis and data crunching, and there's kind of like this gold rush right now for data scientists. Oh, we've got all this... companies everywhere have been just recording all of this data. They got mountains and mountains and databases, gigabytes, terabytes of data, and they don't know what to do with it. So you need data scientists to help you make informed decisions with that data or determine whether or not you've even got useful data. Maybe you've got just piles of junk, and telling you how to measure correctly and stuff. I think statistics kind of help me out. Just the basic statistics. What is a standard deviation? What does that mean? What is a normal distribution? What does it mean for two distributions to be considered distinct from one another? Independent variables, dependent variables, like all these various things that are used for basic science, which at the time I thought this is the worst course ever, but in retrospect it was very important, and I probably should have paid more attention. You having your background in math, I'm guessing that these sorts of things are not you've already taken the statistics, so you're good to go. Hang on, I'm trying to think if there's anything else to say about this. Should you finish your degree? Is I think the question you're asking. Should I go back and finish my degree? I think it depends on where you want to work, because there might be some places that pay more attention to things like what degrees you possess. There are certain job postings that I've seen out in the wild where it's you need to have a bachelor's or higher, you need to have a master's or higher, you need to have this much experience and whatnot. And I think things like a bachelor's degree and a master's degree can help you get your foot in the door. I think if a company is or an interview is like really kind of drilling you on your grades and like what how you did in school. Unless it's about the projects, I don't know. That feels weird. Unless they're talking to you about your research, that would be something I would talk to someone who did like a master's degree or a PhD. I'd like, okay, let's talk about your research a bit because you study a very interesting research area that might be applicable to the position. So let's dive into that. But the fact that you did a PhD or a master's is less important than the fact that you did research. Does that make sense? Smurfd's like, isn't that the normal? You need to have just graduated, have 10 years work experience, and being 20 years old. Yeah, you have to have at least 30 years of using React. Like, bullshit like that. Turbo1v9 asks, put it this way. Would you ever consider hiring a software engineer that hasn't finished school but can prove that they have done great work? Yes. Yes, I would. I mean, I'm not everyone, but I've been on interview panels, and the fact that someone has graduated or not graduated is not important to me. What is important to me is, what have you done? Can you work with people? How do you approach problems? What have you built? Can you ship things? That's what's important to me. And there are people here at Mozilla who have not gone to school or didn't complete their degree, or, there's a wide variety. You've got people who completed a degree that's not a computer science degree. Like, there are a number of, I think, people here with physics degrees and math degrees, but they don't necessarily have like a computer science or software engineering degree. I think there are people with like, they dropped out or they never went to post-secondary, and like, you have a wide variety. I think these things, though, they help you get your foot in the door past recruiters. Things like a master's degree or a bachelor's degree or a college diploma. I think they help get your foot past recruiters. But I think recruiters are starting to understand that, at least from my conversations with them, that we need to look further afield. Like, we can't just, you need to have a more diverse view on how people learn how to program computers. Ultimately, what we're doing here is we're programming computers, solving problems, building software for people. And there are other places than just like universities where you can learn to do that. You might learn at a coding camp. You might learn on your own at home. You might learn having volunteered for something. Like, these are perfectly valid experiences. And I think there's like a shift now to pay more attention to that. I think, at least within Mozilla, there's certainly that shift. We're trying to, widen the field. Like, years and years and years ago, I think the idea was like, look at, like looking at interns, for example. I think we had like programs with MIT and Harvard and Stanford and like all these like Ivy League schools to like help get their students to apply for internships. But now we've realized, like, there are really great software developers out there that don't necessarily go to those like Ivy League schools. It took a while for us to like clue in, but like, no, there are great people all over the place, and they're not in necessarily those Ivy League schools. They're not in the United States. They're not taking computer science. They're over here hacking on stuff, because they're a math student, but they are writing C programs to do like, I don't know, numerical analysis or something. And they might not even realize that they're a great software developer, but they are. So anyways, I don't know if any of that answers your question. PHAQUI writes, on most of the job ads in my area, they write required bachelor/master, but relevant experience may compensate for the lack. See, like, the language there kind of, it's garbage. In that, like, for the people who don't have a master's or a bachelor, they immediately go like, well, I don't qualify. And then they stop reading. But it sounds like it's softened a little bit with that second half. But relevant experience may compensate for the lack. Apply to stuff. That's my advice. Apply to stuff. If it's an interesting job, apply. The worst thing that can happen is that they'll say no. And so apply. Why not? All right, where are we? It's 2:16. I want to get these up for review. Because like if you're looking at me and doing what I'm doing, and you're like, I could do that, then you're a software developer. Because that's what I do. That's what I'm paid to do. So like, apply this stuff. Let's get this stuff posted up for review. So MozFab, submit that to this. And if we're lucky, these can land soonish, and then we can start tinkering with turning picture-in-picture on in nightly for Mac OS users. And we can also start thinking about it for Linux users as well. There are a number of patches that have landed over the past couple of months that I've had nothing to do with, but people who hack on our like Linux backend, the GTK widgetry backend have like they have taken it upon themselves to try and add picture-in-picture support outside of like all of the pushing I've been doing, which is great, you know. So apparently it works. Picture-in-picture kind of works for some people on various Linux desktops. Part of the problem with Linux is there's such a wide, exotic variety of like desktops and window managers and themes and blah, and is it Kubuntu or is it Ubuntu or is it Arc, like a distro, like this, and that's really powerful. You have all this like really diverse configurations out there, but making something that like will work for most of them is, I think, kind of hard. Ocris goes, resizing? I don't know. Does resizing work on Linux? Maybe it doesn't. Maybe that's something that needs to be done. That's something maybe we can investigate during this release cycle, because Ocris goes, yay, window resizing works now in picture-in-picture. Yay, for free. I didn't even do it. Some Martin Stransky or someone from Red Hat or like someone on the GTK widgetry hackers did it. So that's great. ELREMINGU. I don't know how. Elremingu writes, hi. Now that you are mentioned Linux XM, can you give Widevine more love? It's still a tricky beast now and then. We don't build Widevine. Widevine is a Google product. Firefox downloads and runs Widevine inside of our what's called a sandbox content decryption module process. So it downloads the Widevine like EME, CDM, DRM bullshit, and it like runs it inside this special lockdown process, and we send encrypted data to it, and it spews out decoded video frames or something. But Widevine is not a thing that we have the source code for, and it's not. It's unless what you're talking about is our use of Widevine, in which case, yeah, maybe there's some real bugs there, but I'm not sure which bugs you're referring to. All right. So those are up for review. Yay! What do I want to do now? I want to review a patch. Originally, I was thinking maybe we could add more documentation for picture-in-picture. Actually, we have like 10 minutes. What can I do in 10 minutes? 10 minutes. I'll tell you what. Let's. Are people enjoy? I'll give us a choice for the people in the Twitch chat, and I'll also look in IRC. For the last 10 minutes, I could work on 3 things. I can work on documentation for a picture-in-picture. That's continuing on from last week. I can review a picture-in-picture patch from a colleague, or I could just answer questions from people from both IRC and Twitch. And I'll do my best to try and answer questions. So I'm going to make this decision in 20 seconds based on the random feedback I start getting from both Twitch and the IRC channel. countdown starting now. And failing that, I'll just pick a random number from 1 to 3. So it's not like votes or anything, but I just want to get a sense of flavor of what people are interested in. I'm seeing there's like in Twitch, people are leaning more towards reviewing the patch. Although there are two, it's almost neck and neck. Questions and doing the review. It's starting to lean more towards review. Okay, I'm going to review the patch. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to review the patch. So the patch I want to review is a picture-in-picture patch from a colleague, streamer, who is making it possible so that whenever a video resizes itself, because that will happen, where especially on YouTube, where the video element is reused. Say you're watching a playlist on YouTube, and you go to the next video in the playlist. The video element, the actual greater than less than video element tag in the DOM doesn't get destroyed and a new one is inserted. They reuse the old one, and they just change the source on it. And that's great. That's great for performance, actually, because we don't have to tear down a video and spawn up a new one, at least the DOM element part of it. But that new video might have different proportions, it might have a different size. So the video element may resize at any time. And we don't respond to that well with picture-in-picture. If we go to the bug, there is this the demonstration page. Well, I need an advertisement to play in order for this to make sense. So yeah, here's the advertisement. I'm going to open this in picture-in-picture, and now the advertisement is going to end whenever I here, how do I do this correctly, because I don't have always on top right now. I'm going to end the advertisement by skipping the ad. So now the music video is starting, and we've got these gray bars on either side because the video changed dimensions, but the window did not resize. So that's what Mark's trying to fix. He's making it so that we pay attention to the window resizing. So that's resize pip window when video source resizes. So how does it work? Let's take a look. Oh, no, the other way. So he's registered a new resize message lazy listener in browser glue. That's exactly what we want to do whenever that occurs. So that the parent process is always ready to hear, oh, we need to resize the window. Because I think that's what we're going to have to do. The content process, the picture-in-picture handling stuff in the content process is going to have to add a resize event listener to the video. Because thankfully, when a video resizes, it fires an event, a resize event. We're going to listen for that and then get the new dimensions and tell the parent so it can update the dimensions of the picture-in-picture player window. So what it does is when we get the resize event, we make sure that it is that it's in picture-in-picture mode, and we send a message, hey, resize. Great. That's exactly what we want to do. So this is where we add and remove the event, the resize event listeners. We're tracking the originating video. Yep, that makes sense. And here we're handling the resize message. We say, okay, give me the data. Now I'm calling this function resize picture-in-picture window. Now some of this doesn't look exactly right. Where are the features? Player features, top. Did we take the player? Okay, no, we still have the player features here. Why does he move the features to the top? There's this new function, fit to screen. Whoa, this is also sort of strange formatting. Like, calls a function, then there's this like block here. Oh, sorry. Now, this is strange formatting because this is a function. This is a function declaration. That's what's going on. I misread that. This is interesting. I wonder if this is like prettier.js doing this, because there are some like default arguments. All right. Thankfully, Prettier, we use Prettier now to do all of our JavaScript formatting, so I don't even have to worry about formatting issues. Prettier will take care of it. So we call this function fit to screen. What does fit to screen do? We need some documentation for this function. Can you please add a doc string? And it takes a window on screen. The parent window. Okay, the parent window. Some video data, and then the anchor top, anchor left. So okay, because we're only passing 2 arguments, those default to infinity. I guess there's another place where we'll call them with different arguments. Okay, so what do we do? This is, we've taken some of the information or some of the routine that we did in open pip window, and we've like extracted it out to this special function fit to screen so that we can reuse it, I guess. That makes sense. So a lot of this is going to just be reused. But instead of calling it parent window, we use window on screen. That makes sense. I guess window on screen. Fit to screen. I guess window on screen means a window that is on the screen that we will fit on. Okay. And it's getting information about the screen that the window is on. We figure out a width and a height. This is where we do our clamping. We figure out the position. Figure out if we're in RTL. If we're in RTL, we put it on the left side, otherwise it goes to the right side. Let left equal is RTL, and then top. So ultimately we're getting a top, left, width, and height out of this. That's nice. Fit to screen. I like that. That works nicely. We've removed the part where we like open the window. And instead, I guess what we do is we get the dimensions, and then we pass those into features, and then we open the window, and then we say, okay, start the stopwatch for opening the window. And we wait for the load event on the new window. Okay, that makes sense. That makes good sense. Oh, and then there's this function resize picture-in-picture window, where we get the window type. Okay, so there should really only be one picture-in-picture window, so we can probably break from the loop here in case there are other closed ones that still haven't been torn down. So adding a break here, because like closing a window is not fully synchronous. Like a window can enter the closed state but still be in our list of windows, and then it's like garbage collecting and like stuff tears down. So like instead of, once we find a window that is not closed, we can just bail out because the rest of them must be closed, because we are only allowed to have one of these at a time currently. So the way it works is we say, hey, find me a window, now fit to the screen and anchor to screen Y and screen X. Anchor top, anchor left. Anchor top, anchor left. Okay. So that it stays anchored to the same point. Great. And then move to left and top. And resize to width and height. I like it. That looks great. Oh, and he's added a test. This is great news. So he's adding a cropped video. I don't understand what transpired here. Oh, I think it's this is very strange, but it's saying that these things changed rather because things moved down a line. So this is going to be kind of hard to read, but he's added a new test, full screen, skip if debug, remove video element, re-request pip, resize. He added it here. And show message, strip video styles, third party. I'm just making sure nothing accidentally got removed. Toggle after tear out in. Toggle on overlay. Toggle on inserted video. Toggle opaque layer. Opaque overlay. Toggle pointer events none. Toggle simple. Okay. Skip if. Okay, so let's look at his new test. For the public domain, that's the right way to start these tests. Test that if a video element is resized, the picture-in-picture window will be resized to match the new dimensions. That's correct. So what do? We're testing the with controls in the no controls case. Okay, that's fine. He opens a new tab to the test page. He triggers picture-in-picture on the first one. That'll be the one with the built-in controls. And we make sure that we get a pip window. We calculate the initial aspect ratio. I see. And he asserts that the original video is 16:9. He's like doing this to like deal with rounding errors. The math.floor thing. And then he spawns a content task to say, hey, take that element and I want you to, we're going to wait for a resize event. Oh, wait a second. Oh, and then he looks at the inner width and inner height of the pip window. I worry about this racing a little bit because what's going on is we're going to hear the resize event in the capture phase. And then we will return a message. We're going to queue up a message that allows this content task to spawn. And if we're lucky, the message from content, the picture-in-picture child to also deal with this resize event, will have its message processed first. So I'm actually worried. I'm a little worried about races here. We're capturing the resize event. We're listening for the resize event in the capture phase. And that I think is when how do we listen to the resize event, the picture-in-picture child? It's in the bubbling phase. And picture-in-picture child listens for the event in the bubbling phase, which comes after. This means that because messages arrive in order, always arrive in order, in the order that they were sent. If this is passing, then it's hang on. Listens for the event, which comes after. So this promise is going to resolve before the parent, before picture-in-picture child has a chance. Picture-in-child has a chance to send the resize message to the parent. If this is passing, then it's because we are somehow taking advantage of promise microtasks or something, and somehow the resize message from picture-in-picture child is getting processed first before we sample the resized aspect ratio on line 41. So maybe it's not that it's racy so much as it's passing due to unclear, somewhat muddied ordering characteristics, or ordering behavior due to microtasks. To make all of this more explicit, I think and maybe more resilient, especially if doomsday scenario, we decide to change microtask semantics a little, is instead of waiting for the resize event down here, we wait for the resize event in the parent process on the pip window. That way, we're certain we're at the, actually, I don't think there's any reason to explain. So I think that's what I prefer. And the resized video is 4:3, and then we close the pip window. Now, do we have to do anything special to close the pip window? Head. Where do we close the pip window? Browser test utils close window. Returns the close promise window closed. I think we should use, let's use browser test utils close window here. So that we're certain we're at a browser test utils close window, because we wait for DOM window closed. So that we're certain we're at a decent, we wait for a window to have gone away before, to have fully gone away before proceeding. I think that'll help avoid intermittence. And he adds a video. Let's see what the video is. View raw. Hey, he cropped the video, or he resized the video. Great. Cool. That's my testing video. So I think this patch is in actually really great shape. I haven't actually tested it. Maybe we should do that next. Moz fab patch. Apply to here. But I am going to request changes. So thanks, Mark. This looks great. Just a few suggestions. And I think, let me build. Thanks, this looks great, and I really appreciate new test. Just a few minor suggestions below. Okay, let's run. All right, let's watch that Jane's Addiction video. Here's the bug with the link. Oh, I actually have it here. Okay, so we go here, Jane's Addiction video, skip ad, reload. I really actually do want an advertisement. Please give me an advertisement. Give me an advertisement. Well, I tell you what, instead of that, I'll just click on another video that probably has a different aspect ratio, like this cure video. So we've got this video playing. I'm gonna hit this link. My head's probably in the way. I'm gonna hit this link and we're gonna see what happens to the player window. Okay, that's interesting. It re-anchored down in the bottom right. That was kind of unexpected. Let's go back. I'm gonna hit back. All right, so I'm gonna report that as well. But otherwise, it resized the window, which is great. So let me just report that behavior as well. Really appreciate the new tests. Just a few minor sections below. Also, while I was testing the patch, I noticed that when a resize occurs, on the video occurs, the video snaps back to its original position. In the bottom right. I think we want it to keep its location, top left location if it happens to have moved. If it happens to have been moved by the user. Feel free to file that as a follow-up though, in case you don't want to address that here. Okay, reviewed. And that's how I review a patch. Okay, everybody, thank you so much for watching episode 194 of The Joy of Coding. I hope that was interesting. I'm starting to... PHAQUI writes, doesn't the window get created again when you click on a different link? On some video sites, yes. Well, actually, no. Hang on, let me rewind there. No. the picture doesn't automatically get recreated. If the video element stays in the DOM and is still playing video, on YouTube they recycle the video element, so it doesn't actually get removed from the DOM. They point it to a different resource, and that might change its dimensions. If they were to have destroyed the old video element, or were we to have actually browsed to a different website that has a video element, what would happen is the picture-in-picture player window would close. That's the way it's designed to behave. PHAQUI said, you didn't get to test the resizing while staying on the same page. It's ultimately the same thing, though, because while it looked like I was actually navigating here, like I clicked on that one link from the Jane's Addiction video, it looked like I was navigating from one page to another, but actually they recycle the page. They just update the page. But here's our opportunity. I'll do it now just to satisfy our curiosity. So I'm going to stay on the same page. What was interesting is that it just like snapped back to the bottom right too, which is kind of interesting. That might be a bug. I'm going to skip this ad now. See what happens. Skip ad. All right. And it did like go back to the bottom right. I think that is going to be a problem. If people move the window, we probably want to keep it where it was, at least anchored to the top left. All right. So, yeah, I'm done. That's episode 194. I hope that was interesting. Let me know what you thought. There is a form to fill out if you found this stream interesting in the agenda, which I'll drop a link to this form, to rate the episode and let me know what you thought. Rate this episode. I'm dropping it into the Twitch chat right now. Fill out the form. Let me know what you thought. I read everything that comes in. I love hearing about what things I can do to make the stream better, so let me know. Maybe you really preferred I had written documentation. Tell me why. Or maybe you preferred, maybe the whole question and answer thing I did today, like I spent like 5 to 10 minutes answering people's questions on various things. Maybe that was super boring, or maybe I should do that more, or maybe a mix. Should there just be like a questions from the audience section of the stream? Let me know. Also, I'm starting to figure out what I'm going to do for episode 200. Last major milestone was episode 150, and I ate spicy wings every 10 minutes. I'm thinking of doing some additional spicy programming for episode 200, but instead of spicy wings, it's going to be really spicy Thai food. And if you've ever had, like, there's a really decent Thai restaurant near this restaurant that makes like real Thai food with like real Thai spiciness levels. And I think I might go for that to see what it's like to program. Decent is an understatement. You are correct. I don't know, Hattie. I don't know if do we know each other, Hattie? But yeah, it's a decent Thai restaurant. And I'm gonna try some. I think I'm gonna try eating Thai spicy food while programming. We'll see how that goes. And with that, I'm gonna call it here. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week. So, without further ado, take care. Bye-bye. Oh no, I've shut down my tablet. That's how I play sounds. Shoot. How do I play sounds? How do I play my outro music? One moment, please. One moment, please. While I bring up an alternative way of doing it. All right. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye-bye. See ya.